Welcome to another Goji Center video. Today we'll be meeting our all-new, all-American flying hybrid. Happy 4th of July, you filthy animals, as we're gonna take it into the skies on new avian hybrids. Let's watch.
Ultima Imperatrix, Mortalodon, the deadly hybrids built for a specific purpose, with genomes crafted meticulously to bring forth the most efficient, congruent hybrid possible for said task. And now, today on Goji Center, we celebrate 4th of July, and chose this day to introduce a new combatant who will swoop into the hybrid wars. The skies have been largely unexplored until today. The United States of America, a diverse realm with diverse people, places, and problems. Ever since the first gene was modified, people have been looking for living solutions to some of those problems. Humanity has been genetically modifying other animals for centuries to fit certain roles after all. Dog breeds that are better at guarding, tracking, and detecting people and items like mountain rescue and drug-sniffing hounds. Cattle that produce better products or can survive in harsher climates. Bigger and more nutritious crops to feed the hungry and be more resilient to blight and disease. But now, as you already know, genetic engineering can do in a few trial runs what used to take selective breeding dozens of generations. But with those advances have come dangers, new and old. Problems like invasive species, rogue groups releasing de-extinct animals into the wild, and criminal elements are omnipresent. The Great Hybrid War and innovations like the Mortalodon assault animal showed revolutions and how to attack with nature's finest. Now, eyes go to the sky as we try to solve the questions on how to defend. We are proud to present the latest genetically modified hybrid born from beasts across this nation's present and past, spliced together meticulously by a crack genetics and animal handling team led by the mysterious Dr. Francisco Barro, who gave the world Mortalodon anthrophagus, and now was commissioned for something far more majestic. Creating a functional hybrid template is already hard enough. Contradictory instincts, too many contributors, genetic barriers, and more can spell disaster before the final product is even born. Making a hybrid that can do what only 3 vertebrate groups in history have ever achieved was an even more Herculean task. Thankfully, our geneticists were up to the challenge to bring air superiority to our live agents. Look up in the sky.
It's a bird. It's a plane. It's Superman.
No, really, wait, it really is a bird. And potentially the most powerful one that ever lived at that. Ladies and gentlemen, this 4th of July, we are ready to proudly present the newest advancements in aerial assets. But first, we have some groundwork to cover before our big reveal. See if you can guess at the final product as we work through the genome piece by piece. And just to prove we could, every contributor was homegrown and either lives or once lived right here in the US of A. Gotta stay on brand for the holiday after all. The base genome. When picking between the base genomes available, there were many possibilities, but 3 particular aerial apex predators caught our attention. Possibly one of the most powerful pterosaurs to ever live, and 2 of the most active and largest birds of prey of all time. Cryodrakon, the frozen dragon, was a species of Asdarkid pterosaur hailing from Alaska into the lower 48. One specimen found in our neighbor Canada indicates this Goliath flyer had a wingspan of over 10 meters, with extremely strong front legs and a powerful beak. The reason this species was picked over the similarly sized and more famous Quetzalcoatlus was thanks to insights offered up by studies on close relatives. Asdarkids were actually the largest animals to ever fly, but they had a lot of variation between their members. Cryodrakon, its European cousin Hatzegopteryx, and the understudied giant pterosaur known only as Dracula, all belong to a robust lineage of these aerial predators, with stockier frames, thicker necks, and stronger beaks than their more famous relatives like the cats. This will make tackling potentially bigger targets more easy and enable the new hybrid to carry heavier loads when it needs to. Having a large pterosaur was essential for increasing the ceiling on how big this hybrid could get and still manage manage to get airborne. Thanks to being quadrupedal, our hybrid can perform a similar sprint into a vaulting launch for takeoff. This was the secret to pterosaur success, and it's why birds, as theropod dinosaurs and largely locked into a bipedal stance, lagged behind when it came to size. But that's not to say there weren't some large aerial dinosaurs after all. From the dawning to the waning days of the Ice Age, two other species shadowed the American forests and savanna under huge wings. The Teratorns were giant birds that perhaps live on in the awe-inspiring Thunderbirds of legend.
Yeah,
First Nation stories found across the country. After all, the ancestors of such people encountered such a beast on the regular thousands of years prior. Of these enigmatic birds of the Ice Age, the genus Aeolornis was the largest flying bird to ever call the USA its home, at almost twice the size of most other Teratorns. Once thought to be gigantic condors, this group of carnivorous birds did have some similarities, but also some stark differences. With much more robust jaws and powerful legs helping with running down small prey, Teratorns regularly scarfed down animals alive and whole. They didn't just wait for things to die, they saw to it themselves. These stronger legs will help the hybrid in running from place to place when it can't fly, such as in confined quarters, as well as enhancing its takeoff by bolstering the comparatively less impressive hind limbs of the frozen dragon. This is further enhanced by the largest eagle to ever call the United States home. The Woodward's eagle, Buteogallus woodwardi, was a colossal relative of the modern black hawk. Unlike the famous giant raptor of New Zealand, this species didn't have compact wings for maneuvering in between the forest canopy. This eagle instead could soar the skies, just like the other three giant contributors to the genome. Golden eagles, a fraction of the size, are able to kill prey dozens of times their weight in the right circumstances, having many tactics and strategies for dispatching other birds on the wing, snakes, fish, and even hoofed animals. Another tragically bygone predatory bird will further help our hybrid in its tasks, though this one is far more innocuous: the ivory-billed woodpecker. Now, this isn't a very intimidating name on paper, but there was a good reason this recently extinct bird was sometimes called the Lord God bird when surprised onlookers saw it. The ivory bill seemingly went extinct in the early 1900s, but sightings persist to this day. Perhaps having our hybrid flying around might draw a few out. Regardless, samples taken from museum specimens work just fine to supply the hybrid what it needs. Most woodpeckers could easily land on your finger and bore holes in trees, but this giant fowl was larger than some hawks and would seek its food by tearing open hard, dead trees to get at them. Utilizing some of the ivory's anatomy, the hybrid will have drastically stronger neck muscles for both pecking and tearing, as well as even strongly opposable digits that can easily lock down for an extremely strong grip for both climbing and seizing hold of an object, in congruence with the eagle. And like most woodpeckers, the ivory-billed aspect also grants the new hybrid an additional asset in the form of a pointed, barbed tongue, used to grab and stab at small prey to pull them out of the trees, or manipulating objects. Scaled up to the size of this hybrid, this instrument becomes a harpoon that can stab into a target and flay the skin off of. Only if necessary, of course. Moving on, an ancient dinosaur was also added to the mix to further bolster its modern descendant. Deinonychus finally has its time in the sun after its kid brother Velociraptor stole the spotlight. Raptors, or rather dromaeosaurs, existed for about 100 million years. In that time, they evolved into everything from fast-moving mesopredators like Velociraptor, swimming Halaskaraptors, to big-jawed apex predators like Utahraptor. And with Deinonychus having been the turning point in the understanding of dinosaurs, it's only fitting this American hybrid would come packing with the legacy of this iconic American dinosaur. Having lived in dense forests and floodplains, Deinonychus was built to be all-terrain, and one location that was very useful for both setting up an ambush and getting out of reach of the local apex predators was in the treetops. A 2009 study by Dr. Parsons and Dr. Parsons found that Deinonychus' forearms and claws would have been particularly useful at climbing. The sharp hook of that iconic talon combined with dexterous forelimbs helped get the job done. This lets us increase the size of a hybrid past how big an avian dinosaur can get, while still being capable of climbing and perching better than a pterosaur could.
Fuffy.
The contribution from this leopard-sized predator doesn't stop at the limbs, however. Modern birds largely are lacking in the biting department because they have traded away portions of the skull to compact the jaws. Sacrificing some of the attachment points for the jaw muscles and reducing the size of the jaws was needed to help shed weight at a small size, as all modern birds descend from tiny flying ancestors. However, adding some portions of the Deinonychus to the skull puts this back in, as well as providing some room for heavily serrated teeth behind the beak, like some ancient birds once had. Research in 2022 and 2024 indicated Deinonychus not only had a very strong skull, good for absorbing force, but also a respectable bite force for its size to put behind its extremely sharp teeth. While this crunching force wouldn't be too extreme on paper, this was necessary. Too much force and our hybrid might have excessive weight on its head. About 600 newtons of chomping force across teeth that are this sharp is still going to do more than enough damage to rip through obstacles, human or animal opponents. This bite would be like getting your arm stuck in a bear trap lined with razor blades. Every bite earns its pound of flesh.
Ow.
And the last major group of vertebrate animals to take flight grants this hybrid a few extra assets in all of these categories. Today, the three species of vampire bat only exist in Central and South America's misty jungles and Mexican coastline. But these literally bloodthirsty predators once ranged much further. Fossils from the heart of the Ice Age show a larger species of vampire bat, the Stokes vampire bat, once dined on the blood of mammoths and saber-tooths as far north as the Appalachian Mountains. Fossils in Florida confirmed this bat had all the base characteristics of the modern common vampire bat, just blown up to larger scale. Longtime viewers of the channel know where some of this is going, as this bat is a gold mine of useful traits. Not only will this further bolster the powerful arms the hybrid has for better launches and strikes, not only will this bat provide even further enhanced hearing and some limited thermal sensing, but its bloody diet will augment other portions of the hybrid anatomy. Able to absorb, cope with, and reroute large amounts of iron taken from bloodied meals into the body, this will help bolster the beak, claws, and teeth in strength without overloading the system. Additionally, the vampire bat will also affect some of the mind. For creatures that drink what flows through the heart, these literal vampires actually have quite big hearts themselves. Vampire bats are highly intelligent animals and have shown great amounts of empathy towards others. The sick and hurt are cared for, and orphaned young are often adopted. This will help this high-flying hybrid to not only work together with flock mates better, but also coordinate and respond to humans even better. Given the proper care to associate from the humans with their group, they will protect humans and return that care. The Ice Age vampire bat is the last major contributor, but very precise gene editing and additions has allowed us to incorporate some other choice aspects from compatible species. Gripping spurs and barbs on the bottoms of the feet from the osprey, enhanced memory and cognitive and extraordinary problem-solving skills from the American crow, vocal mimicry to imitate other animals and other sounds from the southern mockingbird, and the MVP of our hybrid lines, the metallic reinforcement from very finely selected short-tailed shrew genes grafted into the proteins for the beak, claws, and teeth. And of course, no all-American hybrid would be complete without the claws and iconic visage of the bald eagle, with talons that are the size of an adult human's clenched fists. This anatomy, when scaled up, would inflict nothing but mortal wounds on its unfortunate victims. Now, with all that covered, we are ready to reveal the final product. So, get your cameras ready as we have another surprise in store for you. These species form the base for this product. However, there are three national colors that clad the stars and stripes. And with that in mind, we figured, why stop at one creation? The base template was already plenty practical, but mixing and matching, minimizing and maximizing certain traits means that we can have three variants of this aerial asset to call upon for special situations.
What?
So, in the order of those colors, here comes the red, white, and blue. Hybrid subtype red. Av Imperator Ulysses. Height 7 feet. Length 11 feet. Weighing at 330.7 pounds. Capable of performing reactive, defensive, surgical, offensive, and innovative scouting actions exceeding most trained avians and drones. The American heartland will be shaded by the wings of a new protector. And our latest creation, Av Imperator, the Lord of Birds, delivers this by taking the best bits of all three flying lineages, theropod, bat, and pterosaur, to deliver the best aerial dinosaur we could offer. And we start with the color of the blood from the past patriots. Strength comes clad in heroic red, swooping down from above. Av Imperator Ulysses, the largest and physically strongest of the trio of variants, named for a prominent Civil War hero and president to homage the nation's military history. This airborne apex predator is built for power and longevity for action, while also carrying the majesty needed for its station. With more bald eagle in the mix, this version sports larger claws at over 25 centimeters, or almost 10 inches long, backed by an even stronger grip. Standing taller than most people, with effort, this flying gestalt of the aerial lineages is even strong enough to bring down opponents multiple times its weight. Able to crush down with over 1,000 psi of force across those talons, human aggressors could be easily restrained, and animal opponents might suffer lethal lacerations. With broader wings than the other variants, this red frontrunner can remain airborne for hours on end, surfing on wind thermals and surveying massive ranges over the course of a day. Perfect for search and rescue of people lost in the deserts or wilds of this country. A very humble bird added to the mix aids in this task even more. The red-throated hummingbird doesn't look like what its name implies when out of direct sunlight, sporting relatively dull feathers. However, in the sun, this avian puts on a dazzling display of iridescence. Persons in need only to look up at the sky for the red mass flying overhead to quickly find that help is on the way. Additionally, this red coloration works for intimidation when squaring up against opponents on the ground, confusing or frightening them away. With great eyes in the sky, this variant can be deployed as the ultimate watchdog to defend livestock herds, or be set loose in endangered ecosystems like the Everglades. Trained to attack specific targets, this might be a good solution to removing some of that python problem Florida has been having. Typically stealthy and hard to spot, these invasive predators have been scourging this pristine wilderness of endangered species. But thanks to targets in the water being snakes being readily visible from high up. Hybrid subtype white. Av Imperator Suzani. Height 6 feet, length 10 feet, mass 287 pounds. Not everything to look out for is above the surface, but the seas are still an avian domain. Av Imperator Suzani, the all-terrain trifibian sentry and scout, named after Sue the T-Rex, who became public enemy #1 for some angry... Just kidding. This pale avian is named for a prominent civic leader to homage the nation's history in civil liberty. Still capable of flying just fine with the other versions, this coastal and river scouting hybrid excels in the cold above and below the surface. Switching out a few of the base genome for aquatic hunters like razorbills and cormorants, this pale-feathered variant is still more than sizable enough to handle most threats that might come its way. This blend of traits grants it the ability to use the wings of the razorbill and feet of the cormorant as for 2 sets of flippers to quickly dart around through the water. Thanks to oil coating the feathers, it is capable of diving into the water potentially almost 200 feet down, swimming under the surface for minutes at a time, and then breaching the waters to take flight again. Usually water causes a warping effect on light when it passes from air to water, making hitting objects underwater or vice versa hard if you're on the other side. But with keen eyesight able to focus to compensate for this effect, the white hybrid has superb aim both above and below, able to peer up from beneath the waters and accurately nail a target or judge the distance of a deep underwater target when flying above. What it can't outfly, it can outswim. What it can't outswim, it can outfly. All while being perfect at scouting out line of sight or detection by most conventional methods. A well-trained and equipped Av Imperator Suzani could function as an assistant to divers working underwater, rescuing drowning people caught in riptides, a guardian harassing and fending off marine predators, or function as a scout to locate dangerous targets. Able to survey above the surface of the waters with the white clouds camouflaging it from below, it can spot a potential target like a cartel submersible, dive underwater and tag it with a transponder, and then surface with the authorities called in. Hybrid subtype blue. Av Imperator Armistead. Height 5 feet, length 10 feet, mass 220 pounds. The night brings many dangers. Time to return the favor. Av Imperator Armistead, the night ghost for stealth operations and detection, named for a slave-turned-spy hero from the Revolutionary War era to homage the nation's founding times. The pterosaur-like wings of this hybrid have a special lining granted by a healthy addition of barn owl and great horned owl DNA, substituted in some of the base genome. This lining grants it near completely silent flight, despite still being quite large by bird standards. The crow and ivory build DNA was accentuated even further in this version as well. That straightened beak is a multi-purpose tool for manipulation and, should the need arise, after a successful ambush and submission maneuver, proceed to, let freedom ring. Crows have already demonstrated surprising dexterity and intuitiveness with many tools that this hybrid will benefit from. Picking up or using tools, destroying the wiring on equipment, and retrieving objects will be that much easier. And while this hybrid does still have impressive claws for close quarters grappling, restraining, and climbing, its peck attack is its most powerful asset. Even small woodpeckers can gouge into trees with about 8 newtons of force. Quite a lot for a bird only a few grams in size. Scaling up to a larger size and accounting for diminishing returns, this variant can drill its pecks with multiple hundreds of newtons of force, all focused on a small point. With some of the ivory build's strength scaled up to this size and special reinforcements to withstand the blows, this super effective strike can punch with forces comparable to a sledgehammer behind a spear point.
Ow.
Fortified targets can be duped into thinking they are being shot at, with the walls getting pecked at, roofing or windows can be breached, and any unfortunate human or animal target hit by such a strike will start bleeding profusely, have shattered bones, and suffer internal damage past the point of impact. All from an attack they may not see coming or expect, with the Mockingbird aspect, meaning teams of this variant can communicate while sounding like anything from distant car alarms to other birds. Altogether, the 3 subtypes share enough genetic and sensory similarity that they can still be taught to work together and see each other as comrades. Special cross-species training is even possible with the prior Mortalodon combat animal to supply these living assault units with aerial backup, covering each other's weaknesses, excelling in different tasks, and being capable of being trained and retrained for many purposes to serve the public trust and good. A new unity to help the Union. Rogue hybrids and genetic creations are among the many new threats to this new world. Time to give the people their new defenders. Paid for by Gestalt Corp. Inc. Invest in the future today.
Whoa! That was interesting. Not only could these things be trained by humans, they can even work together with Mortalodons. Holy shit! 4th of July, wonderful Goji Center. I want to see panel of these cute little fucks being cuddled by the human character and Michelle and Mortalodon. I will buy babies or adult size. I don't give a shit. They will be adorable as fuck. I want to see that. I want to see it now. I'll see you guys next time. Bye.